Welcome to the Elevating La Cultura podcast, a space where I talk with Latinas who are passionate about what they do and are willing to share that passion with others to change the narrative, especially for the next generation. Each season is centered around different topics, but all with the Latina perspective. Welcome to season 11, where I'm talking all things finance. I'm so excited to share these powerful conversations. So vámonos, and let's get into it. Born and raised on the Southside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, by Mexican parents, the Nayarit, Lupita Avalos was the first in her immediate family to earn a degree graduating from Marquette University. She's passionate about helping her community through her career and by volunteering her time. In the last 5 years, Lupita has served as a bilingual financial advisor. She helps educate professional women and small business owners on life insurance, savings, budgeting, planning for retirement, and estate planning to build generational wealth. She currently volunteers with Special Spaces, a nonprofit that gives children with cancer their dream room. When she is not working or busy attending networking events, Lupita likes to go for runs, she's a foodie, and indulges in guilty pleasure dating shows and participates in her book club monthly. She also loves hanging out with her husband, Jamie, and her 2 English Bulldogs, Pavo and Chacha. Please enjoy our conversation. Hey, I'm excited to get into our conversation with Lupita. I recently met her maybe like a handful of months ago, and I have just really enjoyed getting to know you via social media. You have newly moved to the Chicago area and have just been really involved with the Chicago community, and I love to see it. So why don't we go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thank you so much, Karina. So primarily full-time, I'm a financial advisor. Have been a financial advisor for 5 years now. But also like to always say, that's not just me. I'm also a dog mom of two bulldogs, 2 English bulldogs, Pavo and Chacha. They're my kids. I'm now a new wife, so I guess I can add that to my titles. Daughter and then Tia of the year. My nieces are my world. So that's who I am, originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, moved to Illinois about 9 months ago now for love. That's pretty much it. And I love working with professional women entrepreneurs, and the Spanish speaking community.
Yes. When I first met you, you're like, I moved for my love. And I was just like, it's like a rom-com. And I have
Right.
enjoyed getting to see your relationship behind the scenes, like on Instagram. And
Yeah.
your wedding recently was beautiful.
Thank you.
If anyone is listening, like, go peep on Lupita's Instagram, and you really documented it well, and even like made it fun with your reels and your like transitions, and I felt like I was there even though I wasn't. And I think that's like beautiful, especially for someone who is in a service-based business and really trying to connect with clients. Um, so I love it. Um, but what inspired you to like pursue a career in finance?
Yeah, first off, thanks for saying that. On Instagram, you keep saying like you follow me through social media, and I, as you see, do share a lot of my career and just education. But I like to show my human side too, and who I am. For those that don't know, I got married in Mexico, and it was a very spiritual wedding that really connected with our Mexican roots. And so I'm very proud of that side. My parents are from Tepic, Nayarit, and it was in Nayarit where we got married, in Sayulita specifically. And so that was very important to me because I just felt like our ancestors were there blessing, our marriage. And so people were thinking I was all stressed out. And I'm like, actually, I will plan someone's destination wedding. I had so much fun. I might make it my side hustle. But anyway, I never imagined being a financial advisor. I graduated from college and went straight into like the staffing world and HR for about 6 years. And although it was helping people, I didn't feel fulfilled. And so I really felt like something was missing. And being someone that had an opportunity to go to a private university, I went to Marquette in Milwaukee. Being the first in my family, in my immediate family to go, I just felt like I had a responsibility to like use that in my community, like to give back because I had this privilege of earning a degree and now being in these, professional spaces. And so I just felt like I was working, just a mediocre position. No offense to those in that field, but I knew I had more to offer, more service to give. And so I was introduced to the career by a high school friend. And I'll kind of explain like the different connections that brought me to my career today, 5 years later. But I kept running into him casually. At the time, I was going through a lot of like a different point in my life, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of things emotionally. In my family, we had three passings at that time, kind of back to back. I lost my uncle, a close cousin, and my niece. And also, we weren't a family that had like things like life insurance in place or, a lot of savings. We just kind of like did what we had to provide our family members with a proper burial. Fast forward, I decided to dive into that financial advising opportunity. And with that came a lot of curriculum that I had to learn. So I had to get like licensings for like insurance stuff, investment stuff. And in that material, it started to call me more and more. I started to learn about risk management, protecting assets and like your income. But most importantly, when I learned about retirement accounts, what spoke to me is the importance of planning for retirement because my mom and dad actually drained their 401k savings to buy our first home and then never had another retirement savings again. They're both 71, like still working. And so it's keeping them healthy, keeping them fit. Latinos are living longer than most, so it's all good. But no one told them about like the taxes and penalties they would pay later on or any of that. So I felt like I had to go for it. I grew obsessed. I also had the liberty to choose the markets I wanted to work in. And so I knew there was a need in the Latino community specifically for that education, more importantly, to build long-term plans for those that were first here and like first geners too, so that they could accomplish their life goals versus living day by day. So yeah, that's a little bit about like how my career started and why I decided to like stay in it till this day.
We were talking before I pushed record about how this topic of finance is really shifting within our generation. And I know I was like, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know why I did not like talk about this specifically like before this season. And I'm like, finances like growing up, you just didn't talk about it. You were supposed to like already know. And there was a lot of
Hmm.
mistrust, a lot of like just insecurity because we weren't taught that. And like the previous generation was very protective and like just wasn't taught the benefits of setting yourself up financially and what that even meant. And I was reminded when you said like your parents used their retirement for buying their first home and buying a house. And like back in that generation, like that was the goal, like that was wealth.
Hmm.
And now our generation is doing a lot more learning about what it means to really set the foundation in order to build generational wealth long term. And like you, like as soon as I started learning this, like a few years ago, I'm like obsessed. I'm like, why didn't we
Yeah.
know this? Like I was asking my parents questions like, okay, how are you making a living now that you're retired? Like what are we like what do I need to prepare myself for when you guys need help living when you're older. And yeah, I think this is a conversation that a lot of people in our generation are really starting to dive into and really focusing their energy and finances on, like learning as much as they
Hmm.
can. Um, so yeah, I think that this is like a great way to start our conversation. And like, how have you been able to educate yourself set yourself up like your foundation, and then also be able to pass that on to your partner, to your family, and the community.
Yeah. Oh, that's a loaded question, Karina. There's a lot to be said as you're speaking. I'm like, yes, yes. There's a lot to be said. I think, there's it's different times, and like our generation, like we're doing a lot of firsts. So even though like our parents, yeah, like it was important to buy like the first home, a lot of us are like the first to like leverage debt in a smart way. We're like the first to like actually budget. A lot of us are the first to like earn a yearly salary versus an hourly income. And so we're navigating that and trying to figure that out on our own. I love that resources are changing too. So like back then, tandas, for example, in our community existed because loans weren't really given out like they are now. Just for women alone, like our resources for capital building were barely available for women 50 years ago, as of 50 years ago. So it hasn't been that long before, we've been able to access, these financial tools and these resources. Now we have Reels and TikToks providing education, and there's a such thing as having a financial advisor, and financial advisors are looking like me a little bit more and younger versus the older white guy in a blue suit kind of stereotypical thing. So I think times are changing, and that's helping people have more conversations on, oh, what are you struggling with financially? How can we save and make it fun? How can you build your credit and do it in a smart way? And you brought out a good point of, how do we prepare to take care of our parents now? We're in the sandwich generation where we're raising kids and also worried about who's going to care for our parents, and that's very unique too. So to your question of how did I educate myself? So at the beginning of my career, again, this was all new to me, but I really fell in love with the information because I knew it was important and I wanted to make sure I knew it so that I couldn't mess up. Like I could educate others. And a lot of that just came with like the licensing, once again, that I'm required to have even speak on securities or investments. You have to have specific licenses. You have to give specific disclosures because that stuff can be very touchy, and vulnerable people can be taken advantage of by, people that aren't licensed or aren't don't have the credentials. Also, B, just continuing my education. So I'm currently halfway through my CFP courses. CFP is a designation that will announce me as a certified financial professional. Only about 4% of CFP holders are Latino. So that will be a huge accomplishment for me, and why I also want to achieve that. But just doing that is also helping me continue my education on, okay, what are the new rules this year for the maximums of different accounts that people can contribute to. What does it mean to be in different tax brackets? What are the new accounts for college savings funds for kids? Because those rules are always changing. The age for retirement is always changing just because of longevity and such. Social Security too, that's a whole another beast to touch on. And so I'm just making sure I'm staying on top of things. And then when I don't know something, having those connections of, okay, I don't know the answer to that, or I don't work with that, but I know someone that can help with that. So I like to consider myself a connection hustler, making those connections with the right resources so that people can get the help that they need to plan appropriately. Um, to just kind of like spread the word. So Instagram, I do that as much as I can. I just, create random reels on random education. For example, long-term care insurance. That is not spoken about in our community often, and that basically would cover long-term care needs for parents when they're elders and they need extra assistance. That can be very costly in this country, and so that's something that we could be getting for our parents that many people don't know about. And November is long-term care insurance month. So in November, I'll just create like a quick little reel, put some information out there, and raise awareness, make people aware of what's available to them. I like to go on to sessions, workshops where I'm also just providing free education, free seminars on what does a financial plan consist of? How do you choose a financial advisor that's right for you? What is budgeting? Not every form of budgeting works for everybody. What should you be thinking about based on where you're at in life? And so it just varies within my process. So I usually first have a discovery meeting to make sure, myself and the other individual were a right fit to work for each other. Because as a financial advisor, my goal is to grow old with my clients, and so it needs to be a relationship that works. From there, I dive into goals. What are some goals that you're looking to accomplish in the next 3 years, 7 years, 20 years, so that I can humanize the plan. It's not always about numbers and about what's your cash flow and what are you spending every month. I want to make sure we're humanizing the plan to really make it more realistic. I do ask about like what's in place, debts and assets and such, income. At that point, people are getting, financially naked in front of me, and that can be uncomfortable. But sometimes just taking that step is helpful for people because they've been holding it in for so long. They've been feeling so disorganized. Just having that conversation of like, okay, what's keeping you up at night? What can we unravel now? Is a step. And so I feel like I just went around your question, but it also does answer the question of how am I able to inspire others? It's really hard to just coach, in a way that's one for all, because everyone is in a different time in their life. Everyone's situation is very different, and everyone has different goals that they want to accomplish at the end of their lives. So, by the end of their lives. So, yeah, it varies, but by now I brand myself as, I'm a financial advisor. I don't like to gatekeep information. I'm not someone that's like, I can't answer that unless you book an appointment with me, if the information is there and I can help someone, why not? Or provide, like I said, resources as to where they can find the answers that they're looking for.
And I think that's what helps people trust, at least our generation is very relational. And so
Yeah.
that really helps people trust like what you're saying because you're
Hmm.
like, you know what? I'm not like the typical or the person that people think of in a suit that's gonna say like, oh, I can't answer that because you're not my client. Like you have to book with me or whatever.
Yeah.
Like we I think we get excited when we learn information, like culturally, like, and then we're just like, oh, did you know this? Did you know this? Did you? And like, we want to share, we want to bring other
Hmm.
people into it. Um, and I remember talking about like that it can be such a strange experience to talk so openly about your finances. I remember when I first worked with a financial advisor, this was like 10 years ago.
Oh, well.
And they were asking questions like budget, how much money, how much debt, how much like all these things. And I was like, I've never like actually written this down and like organized it. And it was
Hmm.
so it was like stressful at first because I'm like, how do I not know all of these things? And at the same time, it was like, oh, but now I'm going to know all of these things and like feel more confident in um, like where I'm at
Right.
financially. But it's like that step of actually doing it because until you get there, like you can just be sitting in stress and anxiety thinking about it and thinking about how it's not organized or you don't know what is works best for you or you don't know what you should do first or like all of the unknowns. But like you said, once you get organized and actually talk with someone who can help you think through what is a great plan moving forward, like it kind of just like releases that anxiety and that stress and it moves to like an empowerment feeling.
Absolutely. And I try to make like people feel comfortable so that they can ask whatever question. Like I tell people, you're not supposed to know this stuff. I know it because I look at it every day. I kind of like nerd out at it now all the time. I, have internal developments from my company that like really help me learn about, oh, what's new with like distribution rules on Roth IRAs. Like if you're a business owner, you're not like into that. You're not tuning into that. You're tuning into your passion. And so that's why you look for a professional that is looking into that for you. It's the reason we have doctors, right? Like we're not necessarily looking to cure ourselves. Like we just like put it on a doctor, figure me out, and just send me on my way so I can feel better, right? Like that's what a financial advisor is. And so I think the taboo is not completely gone. I think there's still some hesitation with some people, and a lot of people are embarrassed. And I have found that, most people that think they're in a bad place really aren't. And so it's a matter of just getting that, second set of eyes to say, oh, you're doing a great job, or you know what, here's some recommendations that I have for you. You decide to implement them if you wish, and if not, like that's okay. At least you kind of got that second set of eyes to walk you through what you're doing that's right and what you could be improving. Sometimes it just comes up in conversation. Just the other day, someone was venting about how expensive birthday parties are for kids now, right? Like, oh my God, just like renting a small little room can be so expensive. And then you still got to get the food, the cake, and like, kids are little, they won't even remember it. Oh, by the way, I also want to put my kid in private school. And it's like, okay, well, have you heard of 529 plans? Like, whatever birthday money that your kid gets can go into that college savings. And by the way, a new law passed last year where if they don't go to college, that can be converted into a retirement account now for them. And that's like a quick, just little like, hey, why don't you do that? I do that for my nieces. Like, you should do that. And so, they're like, oh, okay, thank you for that. And sometimes that raises curiosity as, where they want to speak with me privately and learn more. And if they don't, it's like if they just went home and did that for their kid, for me, that's like, that's cool. That's so cool. Like, I don't know if they'll ever remember that conversation when their kid's in college 18 years later, but it happened because of that quick, just like tidbit that I threw out there. And so it's a matter of just like putting it out there and then just seeing who responds, who has something to say. If there's, no one to give advice, sometimes there's someone that relates. Like, oh, I'm struggling financially. Yeah, me too. Oh my gosh. Like, we're trying to buy a house and it's been hard and these rates are ridiculous. Next thing you know, like you're referring mortgage lenders and real estate agents. So I think slowly but surely, as long as the talk somewhat comes out, it's it's happening. It's happening. Those conversations are there. Recommend books, recommend podcasts like yours, like these episodes. I feel like that's a big deal because if someone doesn't want to talk about, doing their taxes early, but you can like send them that episode that you have on, taxes, that alone can make an impact. And so I just think that having the topic being brought up in different spaces is definitely growth from where we once were. And it's a start as well. People are going to start saying out loud, "Hey, I can't go to that, outing on Friday because, I'm staying in to save a little bit of money." Right now, there are some people that might lie still and say, I don't feel good because they're too embarrassed to say that. But I also think that it's happening thanks to like the influencers that are inspiring that and making that sexier, where it's being more allowed and acceptable.
For sure. I think I mean, that just happened recently where a few episodes ago, I interviewed an accountant, shout out to Jackie, and then
Hey,
I had a meeting with someone who was just asking about like starting a business, and I'm just like, oh, do you have an accountant? Like, because that's one of the things that you need to be thinking about
hmm
as you start your entrepreneurship journey. And I'm like, as a matter of fact, I just spoke to one. And so I was able to share that resource. So yeah, it's like just being in community, having conversations about this stuff. And you never know when it's going to spark curiosity, when it's going to turn into a bigger conversation. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that's so spot on.
yeah. And I'm curious because there is a lot of um, people shifting where they live and finding, well, like maybe losing work, having to find different positions. And there's a lot of companies that are enforcing the work from the company building as opposed to just like work from home. And so
Mm.
there are people who are relocating. So I'd love to hear your story on moving from Milwaukee to Chicago and how that transition was. Because I know when I met you, you were pretty new to the Chicago area, but you're like, I've already been like going to networking events and like meeting people, and it's been great. And so I
You
was like,
have to. You
yeah,
have to.
I was like, that's
Yeah.
great. Like, yeah, I'd love to hear more about how you were intentional about the move.
So first off, like shout out to you. You know how to work a room because like I met you through one of your like comadre events that you do. Yeah, like that was our first like my first intro, my first just in, and that was me just saying like, "Hey girl, like I need a part be a part of like girls." You know, like I do back in Milwaukee a lot of like women empowerment events, women networking events, things like that. And so I'm like, can you like push me in that direction? And right away she's like, yeah, I'm already on it. And so from there, met you. Fast forward, I got invited to my first like formal event. It was a gala by Fempreneur, and you were there. And so you walked over, and had nothing to do with like your ventures and what the events you put together. And then like you walked over and like said hi to me, introduced yourself to my now husband, and then brought us over to your crew. And it was just like it was so cool how like quickly that those connections happened, with just like one person that started that snowball effect. And I'm a big believer in that. It's actually how I was able to grow my practice in Milwaukee. Just like, what for one, word of mouth, and then just being a familiar face in different spaces. I think it's not even about like, oh, hey, I'm a financial advisor. Do you want to be my client? And just like showing up to these places. It's just like listening, getting to know people, mingling, and just showing face, like becoming that familiar face. And so, although there are times where I'm like, oh my God, it's cold outside, it's late, I really don't want to go to this. I still go because I've never attended something I've regretted. Like, I believe that everything I am meant to attend, like it happens, I'm pushed to it, and I always end up meeting like at least one person that, was worth attending. And at the end, I'm always like, oh, I'm so glad I went. Like that was worth it. That was awesome. And so that was the first thing I knew I needed to do, mainly like for my career. Um, and then also for the camaraderie, like where are my girls at? Like I need to be surrounded by strong women, driven women, who I can, lean on and like swap ideas with. And so I quickly was just me aventé. I just threw myself at like, oh, there's a book club. Can I join? Just like very like, I want to be a part of, I want to hang out with these girls. And so I thought that was important for that reason. But also, um, all I really had here was Jamie, my husband, and it was like, okay, we love each other, but we need our times too. I didn't want to like hold them captive at home because, he felt like he needed to keep me company. I wanted to also have my outside life, my outside social life to create that healthy balance. If he was going to have guys' nights, it was like, well, where my ladies at? And so I just thought that that was important for me to start to fit in right away. Now, I'll be very honest, it hasn't even been a year yet. It has been smoother the last probably 2 months, but at the beginning it was very challenging because you're not like a friend just said, you're not from here and you're not from there. Like you just kind of feel like out of place. Also, I transitioned teams from Milwaukee to Chicago, and that was a process and within itself. And during that in between time, I was just at home, 100% remote, getting cabin fever because I do like to be people facing. Even if it's like a coffee shop, I like the background noise to just like zone out on my own work. And so it's a struggle, but I think what helped was just like getting into a routine as soon as possible. I like to work out, so finding a gym that I can go to in the morning, and that was the only thing that got me out of the house that day. Like at least I got out, I got a workout in, and now I'm back home energized. Right? So I really thought that it's still important. I actually made it a goal 2025, attend 1 to 2 networking events a month. There's so many more, but like if I just do that, I will feel good. One tidbit that I got from I think it was a podcast as well of they were talking about how like we tend to gravitate towards groups we're comfortable with, and that's me. Like I get into groups of like female Latinas, right? Like that's my comfort. And I thought that was good advice to like be in rooms that aren't related to you. And so recently I registered for an event on the tech space. Like nothing to do with my career, nothing to do with me, but I wanted to try. I'm going to try something. It's later, I think this week actually, that I'm like I don't even know who I'm going to meet there, what it's about, but I'm just going to like walk in that room and see what happens. So forcing myself to get out of my comfort zone is what I'm doing too. But I'm not far from home. It's not really far. I didn't think it would be this hard. But it's also not like, a few minutes away where I can just stop at my mom's house and grab some food really quick in between the workday. So that those little things have been a little bit of a shift in my life. But then I'm also focused on, okay, what can I do to immerse myself in my new home in Chicago? It's such a beautiful city. There's so much to do, too much to do, honestly. It's overwhelming, but the people here are beautiful. There's so much culture here and so much to lean into. And so for me, it's really been like, okay, get into a routine. I'm getting cabin fever. Where can I go out? What can I do? What people can I meet? Even if it's not to like for business purposes, just to immerse myself because at the end of the day, this is my new home.
Yeah. And, we are at the end of winter. And so
Whew.
I have hope that it's going to be even easier come the spring and summer months to like just be outside. I know winter is so hard, like you said, to just like, oh, it's cold. I don't want to be out. Like it's snowing, it's slushy,
Yeah.
but then once you go out, you're just like, oh, this was just what I needed. Like it was perfect. And
Mhm.
yeah, I think in the summer it's not hard to go out, but in the winter, like it could be it could be tough.
Yeah.
But I hear time and time again, like from the events that I attend and then the events that I host, like everyone who comes is just like, I I'm really glad that I came because I needed this community because we can get so like locked into our own space in the winter. Um, and so yeah, I resonate with what you say. Um, well, I'm glad that you have been so intentional about getting out and finding community. I think of when I went to school so I'm from here, Illinois, and I went to school in Michigan, and I was like, I
Mm.
can like completely like just be in my room, or I can recreate myself and just be out and about and like intentional about making friends because I knew no
Mhm.
one. And it was that first year that I was like, you know what? I'm going to sign up for all of the intramural whatever events. I'm going to
Cool.
attend all of the after class events and just see who I meet and like who's coming with me, like my roommate, or if she was not coming with me, then I was going myself. And it just took that 1 year of intention for me to feel like, oh, I have community here too. And it's like you don't realize it until you actually do it, how
You have it.
valuable it
Mhm.
is. Um,
That's so spot on. Yeah. To that point, really quick, I used to do CrossFit in Milwaukee. And I think one thing that like had me obsessed is the community. It was like the 5 a.m. club, like same people every day. And then I just went back to a regular gym and I was like by myself with my headphones in. And so I started doing spin. And I now do spin twice a week. And I think what has me going is again that community feel. Like now I know several people by name and I'll walk in and say, "Oh, hey." I was like, "Hey, Lupita, hey." Like the instructor, like, and I think that alone, to your point, just brought a sense of like, okay, like this is home now. Like I belong, cool. Okay. Even if it's something so 1 hour twice a week, but it means a lot. And I think we need to be aware of what fuels us. Don't get me wrong, like I'm pretty extroverted, but like I do have like my moments where like I'm like peopled out. I talk to people all day long. Like I need to go home and hide and like recharge. I'm sure many can relate. But we also forget when we're down, like what is it that recharges us? And sometimes it's just human interaction. Just mingling, just talking about trash TV.
yes.
Like just that alone is like, okay, I feel better now.
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
yeah.
Trash TV, that can really unite people as well.
I agree.
Um,
100%.
yeah. Oh, I've loved talking to you. I'd love for you to share where people can find you and if they want to work with you or like schedule a call to learn more about what you do and how you can
Yeah.
help them. Where can that be?
Thank you. Well, the easiest way I'd say is either Instagram or Facebook. I'm more active on Instagram. I'm positive_PETA. And so on there, I have my website or my website link where you can like schedule something, or you can just DM me. I'm not too cool to respond to random DMs. And then Facebook, I'm just Lupita Avalos as well. I have a business page that's more like for branding, but I use my personal page to more. Only because, like I said earlier, I want people to see that I'm, a person too. I also like happy hours, but I'm also, a financial advisor by day. And so I think it's important to provide that full transparency so that when someone decides to work with me, it's because they choose to work with me. But those would be the best way to communicate. And then a quick private message, we can take it from there. From there, we can email professionally or have a quick phone call.
Okay, awesome. Yes, I hope that people like resonate with your vibe because it
Ah,
is fun and, like you
thank
said,
you.
not the stereotypical financial advisor that we might have heard from previous
Mm,
generations.
right.
Um, I just really, really appreciate when I meet people who are transparent and sociable and like I could be friends with them. Like I want to be able to have that relationship where it doesn't feel like I don't know, like you said, stuffy or like
Yeah, like too formal.
rigid. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, awesome. But what advice would you have for our generation or the next generation when it comes to like financial planning?
Mm.
Or I guess just
Um,
like in general advice.
so I'll keep it financial related. My biggest advice is to build good money habits now. I think many people I speak to, for example, like before they start saving, they want to pay off all their debt, or they feel before they start saving, they need to make like more money. And that's not the case. I feel like the earlier you start building good saving habits, the more generational it can be. And so what I mean by that is, if you decide, I'm going to save 20% of my income every single month, that will eventually become a habit that you naturally do, no matter how much money you make. And so at some point you'll learn to survive on less and save whatever excess money you make. Your kids will eventually pick that up. You know, when you give your kid $10, they will put $2 away. And so just those simple little routines are really, really impactful in the long run. And so I think if you can just start building money habits now, it's super, super important. If you start budgeting now, you know, before you know it, your subconscious will learn to spend the same amount consistently without you even having to budget. And so those habits mean everything. It's just like everything else in life, right? Like working out, you have to build that habit so that it's sustainable. You know, waking up early in the morning at a certain time. Once it's a habit, you don't even need your alarm clock anymore. It just happens. And so that's I think the most simple but impactful tip I can give is figure out one money habit that you can put into play, I guess 2025, and then grow from there.
Oh, that's perfect. Amazing. I think like we don't realize how much of an impact like our subconscious has when we just start doing something and like
Absolutely.
we're consistent with it. So yeah, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. I am so thankful to have met you. I'm glad that you moved to Chicago. I'm glad that we
Thank
can
you.
like hang out, and thank you so much for taking time to share your wisdom, your knowledge, your expertise. I appreciate you.
This was fun, Karina. I appreciate you as well.
All right. Well, we will see each other soon. There's a lot of events happening in Chicago in the near future, and I'm sure that we'll hang out.
Yeah, invite me, send me ads, registration links, all of it.
Yes. Awesome. I'll see you soon.
Sounds good, Karina. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Be sure to reach out and connect with Lupita. Thank you so much for listening. Please rate and review this podcast so we can get more ears listening to these stories and can continue elevating la cultura. You can also comment on our YouTube video if you're watching online. I always like to hear from people and how they resonate with the stories that I share. So feel free to take a screenshot of this episode and share it on Instagram and tag at Elevating La Cultura. Enjoy the rest of your day, afternoon, evening, whenever you're listening. Y nos vemos next week. Bye.